Is it too early for Pitt fans to start scoreboard watching? Maybe, but with Miami's win over Virginia last week, Pitt's path to repeating as Coastal Division champions got a little easier. But only if the Panthers take care of business on the field. The bulk of the ACC season is ahead for the Panthers, and it starts this Friday night against Syracuse. We preview that game and more on the Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today.
Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world.
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of October 19th, and this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Vince.
And I'm Pam.
The Pitt Panthers had the week off and are ready to get back at it in the ACC Coastal Division, and all they have to do is win the rest of their games. It's going to be so easy. Starting in Syracuse, New York, under the lightened up. I don't know how to say it. It's going to be explosive Friday night in that dome. Let's get at it. At H2P Show on Twitter, Instagram. It is great to be back talking about a game to look forward to this week after an idle week, Pam.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know if you send us your predictions on Pitt Syracuse. What do you think is going to happen? And what do you think the Panthers' chances are moving forward in the ACC Coastal? At H2P Show on both Twitter and Instagram.
Right out of the gates, I want to say I'm bummed that this defense doesn't get to tackle Eric Dungy, Vince.
That's you could tackle Eric Dungy, but he's just going to keep getting up.
He's your favorite non-Pitt player of all time.
Concussion or no concussion, that guy is just a warrior out there. But thank goodness we don't have to play against him this week. And as we break this down, his replacement, not doing as good.
No, not at all. But still, Syracuse dangerous, and we're expecting another barn burner between the Orange and the Panthers. Just a quick reminder, we are brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. Go to prettyeasypodcasts.com if you'd like to get a show started today and have your own personal producer. If you want someone to take all that production load off your back so you can just talk into a microphone and focus on creating a great show, go to Pretty Easy Podcasts and they'll help you out, just like they help us out each and every single week here on the Hail to Pitt podcast. That's prettyeasypodcasts.com. I'm kind of gonna just be honest, Pam. I'm up in Connecticut this week. I'm covering the XFL draft for our other podcast. It's not that I'm out of the loop. I know what's going on with Pitt. Hell, I practically live on campus. But I'm exhausted. So what am I concerned about this week, if anything?
Well, thank you for covering the XFL draft. Quick question. Did Eric Dungy get drafted yet?
No, because he's on the Browns.
Since we were just talking about him.
Yeah, he's on the Browns practice squad, so ineligible to get drafted.
I didn't realize. I thought he was going to be an XFL player. My fault.
But for our listeners, they'll be happy to hear Adam Bisnawadi got drafted. Nick Grigsby got drafted. Who else did we have go, Vince? I think those were the only two.
Scott Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful. Scott Orndorff went to the LA Wildcats. Your Pitt Panthers in the XFL. Do you think they're going to have those, those awesome videos they play about upcoming games in the NFL for Pitt Panthers? Do you think they'll do that for XFL Pitt Panthers?
I think it'll, Panthers in the pros will, I think, expand over to, multiple professional leagues. That's how I see it happening. And we should also remind the listeners that the players that have been drafted are just as of this live on tape show on a Tuesday night here. So we still got the second half of the XFL draft coming tomorrow. And hopefully there's a few more Panthers taken.
Yeah, Tino Sunseri's still sitting there on the board. We'll see if he goes. Back to why I might be concerned, Pam. I mean, we're coming off a bye, Pitt coming off a big win. Why would I feel bad at all going into this week?
Well, in the Narduzzi era, he's only 2-2 off of a bye, so that also could be based on scheduling and what else is going on. And then he's also 2-5 with more than 7 days to prepare. So one thing to look out for, Allen, this week is if they come out of the gates firing. If they can start quick, that's a good sign. But hopefully they don't appear sluggish, because then it might not bode well the rest of the game.
I'm not too worried about that record, the 2-2 off a bye, but 2-5, the other one, with over a week to prepare. Does that just mean that maybe that's a compliment, because teams spend a lot more energy trying to scheme against Narduzzi than he does trying to change, because he's not going to change what he does, really, especially with even with all this time off, Vince. I don't know what that stat's telling me.
I'm not quite sure either, but it's not good.
Maybe it was more time to prepare for all the jet sweeps they would run.
I don't know if they're just overthinking things. I'll say this. We've been. This isn't a good trend by any stretch, but at the same time, this team does feel a little different than past years. I mean, this is. This defense is certainly a whole lot better than any other Narduzzi defense we've seen, and this offense, certainly over the past 2 years, is night and day difference in what they're doing. So you just got to hope that the focus is there and the execution shows up on Friday night.
The other thing you can be concerned about is Paris Ford being out for the first half of this game. Yep. And I think that sound says it all. And because he's really been heating up, and Syracuse does have some good receivers who we'll get to here in a minute, and not having him on that back end will be a big loss for the first half as well. So I think out of everything, throw the stats away, that's a big thing to be concerned about heading into this game.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about Ford missing the first half, just mostly pissed off still. And I almost forgot about that bad call, but here we are. But again, Pitt's got it going, even with the lack of focus at times, Vince, that you brought up. This team still, how they like to wear T-shirts for warm-ups that has like a saying, like a team mantra. This team should be unlimited energy, because that's what they have. They've proven it. And they need to utilize that each and every single week. And I think if they go in there with that giant gas tank against Syracuse, they could run them out of that building.
Yeah, they very well could. With regards to Paris Ford, it would call me a little concerned in the fact that I think, we'll have Jazzy Stalker most likely starting at that position, taken over. And now he's played a lot of football. Bryson Garner, another safety who's probably going to get some time back there. I look for Syracuse to attack whoever it is and try to isolate them immediately in the first half and try to take advantage of that.
The question is, as we preview the Syracuse Orange, though, is Tommy DeVito capable of attacking weaknesses and taking advantage of great players like Paris Ford being off the field for a half? Do you think he is capable?
I suppose so. I mean, they can. It haven't done great this year, particularly against Power 5 competition. Only 36 points in 3 Power 5 games, all losses. But their receivers are very good. Tristan Jackson, Taj Harris, these guys are averaging over 15 yards per catch. So we are going to need to make sure that we're marking these guys and not letting them get loose downfield.
And DeVito looks to get the ball out quick. They run an up-tempo offense, but in years past, that might have frightened me. But like you said, Alan, this team just keeps going and going and going and has the stamina of this defense. And so hopefully they can keep up with the fast pace here, especially because Syracuse does not have a good offensive line. They're giving up over 4 sacks per game. So for the biggest strength of this team. Hopefully they can really take advantage and get to DeVito very quickly before he can even get the ball to Tristan Jackson or Taj Harris.
This is not going to be a 6 to 75 game. I'm hoping. But I think it could be higher scoring. The only issue I could see the defense having with this team on paper, seeing as they haven't scored many points in 3 of their bigger games you have here, Vince. The only issue is that it's on an odd night. It's on a Friday. And on the road, that might play a factor. But I just feel like Pitt's defense, like you said, there's something about them. And when it comes to that matchup, the Pitt D versus this offense, when you consider that Pitt has gone up against way better offenses, they should be fine. Defensively, this is a Syracuse team that might pose some problems.
Yeah, they got a pretty solid pass rush, and so far, 20 sacks in their 6 games. Although the majority of, again, against those non-Power 5 teams, they kind of padded their stats there. But we've seen them specifically last year. Dino Babers has had these guys. They're certainly capable. They're getting their best secondary guy, Andre Cisco. He's coming back for this game. So they got a pretty decent defense. They've recruited a lot of Southern players. Coach Babers has. So what I'm interested in is, we've had this week off. Are we going to be able to get the running game going against these guys? Now, I don't know who's going to be available for this game. According to the depth chart, all 4 running backs are listed as co-starters. I'm not quite sure what that means. I don't know if we're going to see them all or only one of them. But how do you interpret that, Pam? And how do you think this workload should be divided in the running game? And how critical is it to get this running game going this week against Syracuse?
It's very critical, but the very encouraging thing is how well Todd Sibley has done in the absence of Vincent and AJ Davis. The first game or 2 when he did play, he didn't do well. And I wonder if he's a back that just needs more carries throughout the game to kind of get going. But if Vincent and AJ Davis are going to get back, that's definitely going to cut into his carries there. But I think you have to go back to Vincent and AJ Davis because they're a lot more explosive runners, and especially Vincent is the quickest running back in this group. I would make sure those guys get carries and work in Sibley for more of the power runs. And like you've talked about in previous weeks, Alan, how Sibley can just fall forward and run forward and get a few yards as well. So I think it'll be interesting if everyone's healthy. I think Malik Carter is the guy that's not going to get any carries as a traditional running back, which he had to be used as in the Duke game at times.
But you got to figure out how to get him involved, right? Because he earned it last game.
Right, but as a straight lineup behind the quarterback and run, I don't think he's going to be used if everyone's healthy.
I'm interested to see how they utilize Malik now that you probably have some guys back in the fold again, and if Whipple will get maybe more creative in how they get him the ball. Question about Sibley, Pam. I think he's fallen forward enough and gotten the carries to get his confidence back and look good enough. I think what their game plan, my guess is this: they're going to hopefully be able to play Todd Sibley at the end of the game where he could run into guys, fall forward, get first downs, but probably won't be used a whole lot the first 3 quarters. I don't even see him being utilized in short yardage before the end of the game. I think coach is probably going to keep him reserved. How do you see them using Todd Sibley after he got some carries, proved himself a little bit moving forward?
That is a little concerning to me because I do think he needs some carries early on to get his momentum and get the feel of the game. But he hasn't been in a position with his confidence up where they need him at an end of the game. So it'll be interesting to see with that. Maybe they use him more than an AJ Davis if Sibley is more confident more of a power guy towards the end of the game. I think maybe that's whose carries he can cut in on. I think Vincent Davis will be used in the passing game a good amount, and also in the running game as a traditional running back, but he's so quick. He's so much quicker than the other guys. And so but he doesn't have that power. So I'd say Sibley maybe cut into AJ Davis's carries possibly as well.
But no way Valik cuts into Vincent Davis's work.
I don't think so. I think they'd use Valik differently.
To me, Valik Carter is strictly a third down passing, or maybe not necessarily third down, but strictly a running back that's coming out of the backfield running a pass pattern. I think we've seen enough of just handing the ball off to him in a conventional way.
And that's if these guys are healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Which we don't know. All coach has said is that these guys are not out for the year. That's all we know. And I don't think we should I don't think we should speculate on it any further.
Of course, as we like to say, HIPAA. How about down in the trenches, Vince? Where do you think Pitt's offensive line matches up against Syracuse? I mean, they've pass protected pretty well all season, but what about that run game? Is this a team they're going to finally maybe be able to push around?
I hope so. To me, if you're running the ball out of the shotgun as much as Pitt has this year, I think you are kind of setting yourself up for failure a little bit because it takes those running plays a while to get going. Now, maybe with our week off, the blocking is going to improve. I certainly hope so. Syracuse's defensive line still is decent as far as I'm concerned. Probably the strength of their defense.
But they're a pass rushing style unit, aren't they?
I would say more of that, absolutely, but still, they're going to try to get upfield and make something happen and kind of cut off those runs. So we could try to pound them up the middle, but that hasn't really been our MO so far.
I have a real daytime argument, cable sports channel question for you, Pam. Dino Babers. If you were, I don't know, ranking or taking Coastal coaches to be on your staff, where does he stack up to Pat Narduzzi and everyone else in the conference?
Well, a little correction there. He's actually in the Atlantic Division, correct?
That's true.
Yes, we're talking about Atlanta. Yeah, we're crossing streams here in the ACC.
Yeah, because this is a crossover game, but it's the crossover game that Pitt plays every year. How does he rank? Yeah, and I'm going to look at the ACC as a whole. I'm a big Dino Babers fan. I just think he's having a down year transition without Eric Dungy, who was his staple there. You got Dabo. I'm David Cutcliffe fan. I think he's definitely up there as a coach. Narduzzi.
Bronco
Mendenhall's up there. Narduzzi, we all have had some mixed feelings about him, but he's definitely up there. I wouldn't put Dino Babers, obviously not above Dabo, obviously, in my opinion, not above David Cutcliffe. And then I put Bronco Mendenhall up there, Narduzzi. I'd say Dino Babers as a conference as a whole is probably like 6 or 7 around there off the top of my head.
That low?
Yeah, but I think he's a very good coach.
Okay.
Would you say he's better than Narduzzi? Who are you arguing with on that list?
I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing.
That's what those stupid questions are for. I just like getting people's stance on Dino Babers. I feel like he is like Pat Narduzzi in that he's kind of a polarizing coach within the conference.
And Dino Babers, Vince and I off pod have talked about this recently. There are very few college football coaches I actually like, I've learned over the past year or so. And Dino Babers is one of them. As far as I know, I got to maybe do some more research. But as of right now, he's actually someone I like. So he is a little divisive. But the fact that Syracuse football is relevant and what he has done with that program has been incredible.
Yeah, he has brought him back from the abyss, so to speak. An excellent year last year. Some may say it was padded by some soft non-conference scheduling, but yeah, such is life in NCAA.
You play who is in front of you. You play who shows up to play you. And Pitt's going to show up to play Syracuse this Friday night I'm calling it a rivalry game. It's a rivalry game to me. Feels horrible when Pitt loses to this team, which is, thank God, very rare, Vince. What's the current record right now?
Yeah, so Pitt has won 12 of the last 15 matchups against the Orange, which is pretty good. But, all these games under Narduzzi have been close. Kind of excluding that one basketball game that they had in 2016. All these other games have been close. Last year, it was an overtime victory for the Panthers. A couple years ago, they needed a fake punt to beat Syracuse. So this game coming up here, Pitt right now 3-point favorite at the Westgate, and I think with us talking here, we feel like Pitt should be a much bigger favorite than this. But when you look at how close these games have been, I think that's something you got to respect and you got to consider.
Yeah,
so what's your prediction?
I'm worried about some things, but ultimately, I think you got me here, Vince. I think Pitt should cover that. You give your score first, though.
I think the Pitt defense is going to play very well in this game, but the offense, this is going to go one of two ways. Either going to come out like really crisp and fired up because they've had a lot of good practice and they're fresh, or it may take them a little while to get back into the swing of things here. I'm a little concerned about that, and that's why I'm gonna pick Pitt to win this game, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be a 24 to. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a 24-20 score.
Wow.
Oh,
so just covers.
Barely covering.
I'm gonna go a little bit lower score. I think the defense is going to continue to get turnovers like they did in that Duke game. I'm going to go 20-10 here. I think it is going to be relatively low scoring, but I just think Syracuse's offense isn't going to be able to handle Pitt's defense, and I don't think the Pitt's offense is going to look that great because I do think they need to gain some momentum after the bye week. So I'm going to go 20-10 here, Pitt.
All right. They make sense to me, but here's how I see it now. Moving forward, second half of the year, trying to run this gauntlet, what we know so far. I think Pitt's defense can play great. I think Pitt's offense in this game can score a lot of points. But I also know that Pitt can't get out of their own way. So
yeah,
I think I'm more actually interested in how many penalties Narduzzi's team racks up. That's the number that we should be most concerned with. But knowing that Pitt's going to just somehow figure out how to keep this thing close, even though they probably should win it handily, I got Pitt winning 20-19. 1 point win.
Oh, my goodness.
It's going to be Heart Attack City on a Friday night. But good thing it's a Friday night, which is going to be great because after the game we could all go out down wherever or your favorite watering hole and toss a few back and hail to Pitt all night long.
I hope you're right, Alan. I hope all three of us are right. This is a critical game. I think this is one of the trickier games left on the schedule that may feature Pitt being favored in all 6 of these remaining games, but it's going to start with this one Friday night.
And at the beginning of the year, this is a game that I had pinned them to lose because I thought Syracuse was going to be better this year than they are.
Pitt could end up being the first team ever to be in a game that's dubbed even by Vegas all season, the rest of the season. 5 games after this. Well, no, I guess Georgia Tech's still out there, right? Yeah, and Boston College just lost their quarterback. Pitt's going to be favored in at least 2 more, Vince. Don't sell them short.
I said they may be favored in all of them, but
it's possible.
They may be favored in every single one of these games coming up. but this is going to be a challenge, even though I don't think it should be, but something tells me it's going to be close.
Yep. Well, enjoy it Friday night. Hail to Pitt all night long after Pitt beats Syracuse, hopefully, and go on into the weekend. And then after this, of course, next week is, I believe, the U. Pam, are you? I'm like so not ready. I mean, this XFL draft killing me. I'm exhausted, but we're gonna need full energy for Miami week.
Yeah, and it's been announced it's a noon kickoff. We haven't had one this year. We've had an 11 a.m., but not a noon. So we got the noon kickoff.
Actually, that's a. Well, Vince could correct you.
It's a big noon kickoff.
Yeah. Oh God.
Big noon. Although it's not the actual big noon kickoff because
it's not the actual big noon on Fox. It's it'll be a big noon kickoff here in the Steel City and playing Miami on October 25th.
Would you say big noon kickoff's the best gimmick since talking like Coach O, Pam, in college football?
I don't like the big noon show, so I'm a bad person to. I'm not a huge Coach O fan either, but I do like the Coach O impressions.
I've heard you do Coach O impressions. Don't you pretend.
I like it. I do like him. I'm not a Coach O fan. Let me put it that way.
Well, we're not on the rest of college football yet, but I have a bet we'll make maybe later on in the show.
Okay.
Vince, what about this basketball commit before we move on?
Yeah. Coach Capel picking up a basketball commit for the class of 2020, Max Adassam. Did I pronounce that right?
Ahmad Assam.
We're probably saying it wrong. But either way, 6'10", about 240 pounds, a center out of Christ Our Savior Lutheran in Brooklyn, New York. It's good to see Pitt hitting that New York City market again. 3 stars by Rivals.com for whatever that's worth. This kid had offers from St. John's, UMass, Penn State, St. Louis, Rhode Island, Old Dominion. He's coming to the Panthers. I look at this as a raw prospect with some excellent athletic ability, but size, which they desperately need. And Pam, this is somebody who I look at from the little I've seen of him, somebody that's got ACC level athletic ability. And for me, they got to build up a core of players who are not liabilities out there who could actually hang at an ACC level, even though they're role players.
Yeah, and at 6'10", that's definitely some height. The center position for Pitt over the past 5, 6, 7 years.
What center position?
Exactly. There's been no center position. So
Gary McGee, is he the last decent center? Maybe.
I don't know if I'd say that, but
yeah. So to have a athletic center come for the it's good to see someone that hopefully can hang with a lot of the athletic centers in the ACC. He's probably going to need to get a little bit stronger to compete down low, but you can't teach height.
Yeah, certainly a project guy that can block some shots and hopefully rebound. So that's something that, even if it's going to take some time to develop this kid, that's something he could come in and immediately help.
And, this is pretty much being declared the biggest signing so far by Capel in terms of notoriety and the physical form of this human being that they're bringing in, 6'10", 230, and with some training and some teaching that could turn this young man, Max Madison, I'm going to say a Madison, into a beast at Pitt. And more good news under Jeff Capel, which when you're at where Pitt's at right now basketball-wise, the best news about your team comes in the recruiting realm because that's where the hope lies. And there's a ton of hope with players like this, 6'10", Max Madison, of course Noah Collier, we've talked about before as well. Pitt doing some things, getting ready. And we're going to have some basketball previews coming up, Pam.
Yeah, I'm doing some research, getting those ready to go for us later this month or early November, because the season's right around the corner, and we'll have special men and women's basketball previews this year on the Hail to Pitt podcast. So we'll dive deeper in both the teams, look at their strengths and weaknesses, and how both teams can kind of improve their position from last year in the ACC, if that's possible for either one of those programs, and a look around the ACC in both men and women's basketball.
And I know we're about to get into what the Yinzers are saying, Vince, but what the students are saying about last week's, what was it, the blue and gold midnight whatever at the Pete. I asked once a fellow classmate how it was, and he said it was lit like as if Narduzzi just beat Miami, and the cathedral was all shining bright. He said it was totally awesome, and Wiz Khalifa was very respectable to everyone's ears and didn't cuss too much.
That's all you could hope for.
Well, everyone came out for that too. James Conner, Ryan Shazier, a bunch of local Pittsburgh legends were there.
Yeah, it was lit like the cathedral, and hopefully the Pete is all season long. But Pitt football still on everyone's mind, still who everyone's talking about, still the best football team in town if you ask me, Vince. You want to go around town see what they're talking about when it comes to Narduzzi's squad?
I'm curious. I'm really curious to hear what people are saying for this big Friday night game.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing. Trying to find out what the Yinzers are saying.
I can't believe they're playing a Pitt game on a Friday night. Who scheduled that? Steve Peterson?
Yeah, I was going to go to the TJ game in that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I sell my tickets for Friday to Wolverine now because I got to go watch this. It's a big game. You know, they got to win the whole way through, and they win the whole division and probably end up beating Clemson in that.
Yeah, Woody High, they were playing Moon. That was going to be a big game. I was going to pick going to that over, maybe even Stowe Rocks or Central.
Oh, that'd be a good one, but I don't know. It's Pitt Syracuse, going to see Woody High play Moon. It'd be nice, but this is a big game. But ultimately, I'd rather go down to Keysport.
Hail to Pitt.
What the Yinzers are saying.
So that's what the Yinzers are saying. Big Friday night of football, both in the area and up in Syracuse, New York for the Panthers. Last week was a huge week for college football around the nation. This week, maybe not quite as big, but still some big matchups and some matchups that those of us here in Pittsburgh ought to be very, very focused on, Alan.
Oh, college football. Don't you dare think just because last week's over and the games aren't as gigantic this week that we slow down, because when it comes to ACC football, the heat is on. The Virginia Cavaliers, oh my goodness, Duke Blue Devils, do us a favor, plus 3.5 on the road. We could be right in the driver's seat here pretty soon, Pam.
Yeah, I alluded it in the opening of the show, but Virginia lost to Miami last Friday night, and so if Duke can win this, then Pitt controls its own destiny then.
That's right.
I just want to make sure that was a dramatic pause, but I wanted to make sure I was right there. Duke's a 3.5-point underdog at Virginia. Duke, I think, by everyone's standards, has looked a little bit better than everyone thought, and Virginia has come back down to earth here. I think the Blue Devils can do it. I think they're gonna lose, but I think it's gonna be extremely close.
If the South Carolina Gamecocks can beat the Georgia Bulldogs, I believe in the Duke Blue Devils here. And all the teams that play Virginia the rest of the year. But hopefully I only have to worry about this one. Tough to pick against Virginia, though.
They're one of the most respectable teams that Virginia has to play. I don't have to cheer for, other schools. So I wouldn't mind cheering for Duke here.
I'm going to pick Duke to win this game. Virginia, they got smacked by Miami, and Duke, after a crushing loss to Pitt, they rebounded it and handled Georgia Tech. So I think they're riding high right now. The Duke Blue Devils playing with some confidence.
Gonna have to win a shootout though. I don't see Virginia's offense being that slowed down this week.
I think that Duke defense is a little bit better than people are giving credit for. I think they got some good speed there. I'm telling you, I like this Duke squad. I do.
Well, I hope you're right. I absolutely hope you're right. People forget, but the Pac-12 still plays football. Oregon is favored on the road up in Seattle in front of 1 billion people in that stadium. Game of the year in the Pac-12, some people might say. Although I think it was already USC and Utah. How's it shake out, Pam?
Yeah, I feel like we talk so much Pac-12 on this show, but this week...
Dude, you guys talk way too much Pac-12.
I know. In all honesty, the Pac-12 does have the best games this week, in my opinion. Oregon, Washington, I think Oregon's going to smoke them here. I think Oregon...
Really?
Yeah.
It's legal to do that in Washington, too, so...
I think Oregon's going to win, and I think they're going to win by more than 3. They're going to cover, and I think Washington isn't that great. And Oregon... Maybe they're not going to be in contention for the playoff, but they can still get a New Year's Six bowl easily.
They can still win the Pac-12.
They can still win the Pac-12 as well, yeah.
Who here laughed at people's faces if you even encountered them when they said that Jacob Eason could be a Heisman candidate?
Or Jacob Eastman is going to be drafted higher than Jake Fromm, potentially too.
That could happen still. Just so you know, bigger arm. That's a whole different ball game. Jake Fromm's a big disappointment to a lot of people right now. I don't want to kick him while he's down. So let's move on from that great Pac-12 game. I'm picking Oregon, by the way. Big upset on the road, even though they're favored.
Vince? You like Washington, don't you? You've liked them all year.
Something about Washington seems to always beat Oregon. I don't know.
Chris Peterson needs this win badly because he's getting killed on Husky Twitter. I read that sometimes. They do not like their coach right now.
I'll tell you something right now. I'm picking Oregon, and I think Oregon knows that they're playing a top 25 opponent on national television. This is a way to get at a reasonable time to be playing this game. It's a 3:30 game. So people will actually see it. So I think, if they want to, get back into the good standings of people, get back into that top 10 and have a hope and a prayer of a playoff spot, they got to blast this team. So I'm going to pick Oregon.
All right. So moving on from the Pac-12 hour here on the Hail to Pitt podcast, let's go to Arizona State at Utah. Number 17 against number 13. I still don't know how Herm Edwards didn't end up being terrible at Arizona State. He's awesome there.
Especially as an underdog, he's fantastic. And I think Arizona State is going to give Utah a run for their money. Utah's defense is very, very good, and Arizona State's bringing their freshman quarterback into Utah to face that gauntlet of a defense. But I think Arizona State's going to cover, and I'm going to pick them to win this game outright here.
Are you really?
Yep.
Oh, man.
Herm Edwards, one of the few college coaches I like.
There you go.
I'm keeping track of this list in case it ends up being
it's very
small. We had a long discussion for the listeners. Vince and I had a very long discussion about this, trying to figure out what college coaches I actually like, and Herm Edwards is on that list.
I'll give you a metaphor, Alan, about college coaches, and Pam really understands what I'm talking about here, is that if you keep turning over rocks, eventually you're going to find some snakes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens. But Herm Edwards is doing good things at Arizona State. He's got a well disciplined and coached team that is ready to get up early and take on this Utah team. I don't know if I'm going to quite say that they're going to beat them. I'll have to think about that a little bit more, but I do think that they could come within the 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I like that a little bit better than the outright underdog winner for Herm. Utah had the setback against SC, but there's still, a crazy good defensive line there. But this team plays defense too, Arizona State. 1 loss. This is a sneaky fun game. Definitely watch it if you enjoy college football. It's the ranked teams playing this week are mostly in the Pac-12, but you do have one in the Big Ten with Michigan and Penn State. I wish I could rely on that khaki-wearing dork to win this game, but I don't think it's happening. Penn State at home, they have this controversy with the T-shirts and the letters, but I feel like they're banding together as a team, number 7 in the country, and maybe this is the game that gets Jim Harbaugh fired.
Yeah, I think Penn State's going to win, more so because Harbaugh's awful on the road against ranked teams. Yeah, so I think Penn State's going to win this game here. I watched that whole entire Penn State-Iowa game, which was quite boring. But Iowa's defense is good, but if I was a Penn State fan to make a big push, I'd be really concerned about Penn State's offense. They have a very good defense, but their offense is not good. But I do think they're going to beat Michigan here.
You talk about that stat about Michigan, Harbaugh not being able to beat a ranked team on the road. James Franklin's record against Michigan State, and Ohio State's also very poor. So something's got to give here. But Michigan is just, I think, we're all going to look back on, some of those worthless preseason polls and say, this was one of the most overhyped teams. Their defense lost a lot from last year, just not quite what they were. And Shea Patterson, transferring up from the SEC, just not delivering the mail.
Not at all. And unfortunately for Jim Harbaugh, it might mean his job. I'm serious. I think that's coming to an end soon.
You think?
It's just, I rather my coach lose games he shouldn't than never beat a team he shouldn't, which never happens for this team. Real quick bonus. Think Clemson falls a week after Georgia fell, Pam? Can Louisville do it at home?
No.
Okay.
Not after that wild game against Wake Forest.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I watched I watched a lot of college football on Saturday, and let me tell you, the Louisville Wake Forest game was so long. But no, Clemson's not going to fall. Their offense needs to get a little bit more on track, but Clemson's going to beat Louisville.
All right, and as we wind down here, we're less than a month away from Alabama LSU. If LSU wins that game, Pam, will you do a Coach O impression on the show?
No, because I think they might actually do it. They might actually win, so I don't want to commit to this. If you've asked in previous years when the gap was a lot wider, maybe, but no.
Maybe
I'm not going to do it.
Maybe I'll give you some points, but I got to consult with my odds makers friends before I set that line. Then I got a few weeks. Okay, again, congratulations to the Pitt Panthers who made it to the XFL so far. Like we said, we're recording earlier in this week, so there is another part of that draft to go, so you might see some more Pitt Panthers become pro football players in that league. Definitely watch them, definitely support them, and definitely follow us on Instagram and Twitter at H2P Show, and of course subscribe to the show on all podcast feeds, or check out our YouTube channel where we post all of our shows as well. Anything left before we go off into the college football weekend, Pam?
How do you like me?
Nope, just hail to Pitt.
Vince?
I would say, just echo what you said. Make sure you subscribe on all your podcast applications. It's the best way to listen to the show, so it automatically gets downloaded to the device of your choice. 100% free of charge.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, for Vince and for Pam, I'm Alan. I'd like to say, hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt.